Hello and welcome to our presentation on how to quickly boost team performance. I'm glad you joined us. We want to share a couple of concepts that we really believe are going to help you in taking your team to a higher level of performance. So first of all, in the idea of team performance, there are two words here, obviously in the title, team and performance. Team has to do with the individuals. Performance has to do with the productivity of that group. But what we'd like to do is emphasize that you really need to have both in mind. So this is illustrated very well by a model that was developed by Dr. Bruce Tuckman. He earned his PhD in psychology from Princeton and he proposed this model. The model has to do with four key words: forming, storming, norming, and performing. Well, what is forming? Forming is where the team comes together. They're individuals, they have their own individual perspectives and ideas, and they assemble as a team. But that quickly moves into storming, where there's conflict, and they, because of their different outlooks and personality styles and priorities, there's conflict built in, and they have to work that out. Working it out is done in the norming stage, where they figure out how to work together, get some common goals, and start to work towards those goals. And that's where the performing stage comes in. So we're going from forming as individuals, we have some conflict, we work it out, and then we are able to perform at some level. Most teams see themselves in the norming or performing stages, the last two stages, because they have reached some kind of status quo where they work together, and what is normal and ordinary to them involves just their day-to-day, and they have a certain kind of output, if you will. But in reality, every team, whether they're, you might say, good performers or not, there is always room for improvement. We'd like to propose that in reality, most teams struggle in the middle stages, in the storming and norming stages. In other words, in the storming stage, there's more conflict than they'd like. There is maybe higher turnover where people quit and they have to be replaced, and just a lot of challenges. So their norming stage, where they learn to work together, is a bit of hit and miss proposition. It is something that they work out, but there's no method to it. They just do the best they can, and they perform as well as they can, all things considered. That's not necessarily ideal, obviously, if you're stuck somewhere in the middle, or you have higher than desired conflict, stress, and that sort of thing, and turnover. Forbes published a couple of interesting statistics in one of their articles where they said 79% of people who quit their jobs say that lack of appreciation is the reason, and 53% of people report that they're unhappy at work. Well, that's pretty staggering. Those are big numbers. And what that tells me is that there's a lot going on under the surface of almost any team where people are either feeling unappreciated or there's some reason they're unhappy. So let's look at some of the costs of those sorts of emotions, if you will, or that kind of dissatisfaction. There's an emotional cost that involves conflict, stress, hurt feelings, alienation, frustration, confusion, guilt, embarrassment, pain, loneliness. That's a pretty negative list, but if all of these kinds of things are going on in our team, that's not really what we want, of course, and there's an emotional cost to that. And it's unpleasant, and it leads to a lot of negative consequences that we really don't want in the ultimate goal of being a high-performance team. But there's also a business cost of misunderstanding. The top of the list here is turnover. Turnover is, of course, when people are unhappy and they quit and you have to replace them, hire someone else. The typical cost to replace a key person in a company is somewhere between 90 and 200% of their annual income. And that's very expensive. But there are other business costs: lower productivity, disengagement, mistakes, low quality, loss of time, demotivation, lack of creativity, lost sales, trust, and customers. And all of that has a negative effect on the bottom line. Well, Forbes also published another article where I pulled this quote out that was just very interesting. In overcoming challenges, it said, "The key is to learn how to deal with different personalities to figure out what drives each individual member and tailor your management accordingly." So understanding personality styles in this article was very key. We just saw in the previous statistic that 79% of people who left a job felt underappreciated. But did you know that different personality styles have different basic motivations? So feeling appreciated, wanting to be appreciated, is just one thing. But there are other people who really, really want to be respected more than any of these other things, or to be recognized, or to be valued. So these are very important. and they're much more important to certain individuals than others, and there may be some combination. So the key is understanding. And if we are trying to work together and learn to work together in the norming stage, we have to understand our differences, what they are and why they exist. We have to understand personality clashes, what they are and how to resolve them. We have to understand goals and motivation for each person, what they are, and how to work with each person. So the key is understanding. That is how you have a strong team. And there's no way around that. And it just doesn't happen accidentally. So just how important is understanding personality styles? And by the way, we are proposing that understanding personality styles, if you haven't already caught on, is the key to understanding your whole team. And here are a couple of visuals that will help make that point. If we see that problems are sort of isolated things that we tackle one-on-one individually as they come up, okay, we can do that, but it's very tiring and there are lots of problems and we just try to do the best we can to solve them. But as we increase our awareness, we'll see that a lot of problems are related. They're connected. There's a pattern here. And once we learn even more, we realize that a lot of problems, if not the majority, are relational in nature. In other words, we may have problems between two departments in a company or an organization, but it has a lot to do with the people in those divisions that interact with one another. And that could be why there's a challenge. In other words, it has to do with relationships. So we'd like to propose 4 stages to improve your team. Just like there are 4 stages in team development, forming, storming, norming, and performing, here's the challenge with that. It's a good model, but the storming and norming stages, of course, they don't address how do you get through those stages. We could just leave it to trial and error. But what we want to do is introduce a methodology, and that is, as you see, it's assessing, discovering, applying, and adapting. And we'll explain that. But this is a very intentional and effective method to go through these stages and reach the performance stage. So here are the steps. First of all, you determine each team member's personality style using a simple 15-minute online assessment. They can do this on a computer, tablet, phone, and once they take the assessment, they can learn about themselves. We also do training. We train the team to understand the DISC model of human behavior. We love the DISC model because it's simple, it's positive, it's encouraging and uplifting, and it's based on normal behavior. It's not based on a dysfunctional type of behavioral model, but normal behavior. It's an excellent model that is easy to communicate, easy to understand and apply. Practicing is the next stage. This is where you practice the information that you've learned on a daily basis. And this is where you just learn how to work with other people, learn how to identify what their style is and what your style is and how you can work together. And this is where adapting comes in. Adapting our behavior and our communication to work better with others. And this becomes part of our team culture, part of our language, and we learn how to work together. So understanding personality styles can dramatically help your team work together with lower stress and higher cooperation. So just imagine your team. Think about each person, maybe those who work most closely with you, and imagine each person fully engaged, fully appreciated, fully valued, fully respected, fully recognized for who they are. And we would submit that when that is going on, when your team is healthy and working together, that performance will follow. It's just a natural outcome of a team that's working well together. So what are your next steps if you want to look into this further? We suggest that you try a personality assessment for yourself. You can discover your strengths and potential blind spots for greater understanding. You'll have a great time reading about yourself. It's a wonderful report. And also you can get trained on the DISC model of human behavior. This will enable you and your team to work together better than ever before, like never before. We have a full training program and it ranges from a short session to a full 2 days or even more. We can help you and we can help you develop from wherever you are to a higher level of performance. Let us know if we can be assistance. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.